Hi, my name's Cameron Zadigan, and this is another episode of Cam's Camera Talk. Unfortunately, I have to bring some bad news to you all. It's my duty to bring to you the tragic news of the loss of my beard. I know, it's sad. So now I think it's time that we should all take a moment to remember the good times that we had with my bushy beard. So anyway, that's enough of that, because you're not here to hear about my beard testimony. You're here to hear about Gotham Season 1. Here it is. Now, I realise so far mostly what I've brought to you have been film reviews, but I'm also an avid watcher of TV as well. And also, in case you didn't notice, I'm a pretty huge nerd too. In particular for Batman. Again, in case you haven't noticed. So imagine how thrilled I was when I heard that they were making a TV series about Gotham City. A dark and gritty TV show about the home of the Caped Crusader, all his villains, and Batman himself. Kind of. Except a lot of these characters are children, so Bruce Wayne, Poison Ivy, Selena Kyle, the Joker, all children. So instead this show mainly focuses on Jim Gordon and his time as a detective in Gotham City. So as I'm going to be talking about the entire first season of Gotham, I need to warn you that there are going to be spoilers in this video. So as I'm covering the entire first season of Gotham, there's a lot of characters that I just won't have time to delve into fully. So an example of some of these characters are Poison Ivy, the Dollmaker, the Electrocutioner, Renee Montoya, Barbara Keene, Victor Zsasz, Harvey Dent, Leslie Thompson. So I'm just going to sum up these characters with a noise. Okay, now that that's out the way, I'm going to move on to talk about the characters that I actually am going to talk about fully. So Ben McKenzie and Donald Logue played James Gordon and Harvey Bullock. Now I really enjoyed the chemistry between these two characters. I mean, James Gordon is a really good cop, he's played by the rules, whereas Harvey Bullock takes more liberties. He's a lot more fun in his approach to it, and it's really fun to see these two characters interact. We even got a flashback of Harvey Bullock's character to show why he acts the way he does. I felt these two characters were explored very well and managed to find their characters very well within the first season. David Mazouz and Sean Pertwee played Bruce Wayne and Alfred in the first season of Gotham. I did like both of these characters, but this show is meant to be about Bruce Wayne as a kid, and he just doesn't feel like a kid. Like in the beginning, his parents get shot and he's all sad and crying about it. But then 3 episodes later, he's like, "Yes, Alfred, I'd like the files on my desk by midday. I'm going to follow up on some leads that I've found." I was like, hasn't it been a week since your parents were savagely murdered in front of your eyes? Wouldn't you still be in mourning? That's a rhetorical question. Yes, you would still be in mourning. I feel that the show skipped over kid Bruce Wayne and just moved straight to adult Bruce Wayne, but in a child's body. With how the show's presenting it at the moment, I feel like we're only 1 or 2 seasons away from actually getting Batman, but the problem is Bruce Wayne is still like 12 years old, so it physically doesn't make any sense. Catwoman, or Cat as she's called in this show, is played by Cameron Bicondova. Great name. And I enjoyed her take on the character. Catwoman is technically a villain, but she's also really good at heart, but it's a very layered character. Cameron Bicondova is still a young actress, so the fact that she can take on this character so well, I mean, it shows how good she is. The Riddler is played by Corey Michael Smith, and Penguin is played by Robin Lloyd Taylor, and I really thought these were fun takes on both of the characters they were playing. I like seeing the Penguin's roots and him grow from nothing to becoming a crime lord. I mean, he's about to be killed off about 6 times throughout the entire first season, and somehow he manages to talk his way out of every single situation he gets himself in. I would get it if it was once or twice, because it would highlight how much of a sort of sneaky character he is, but when characters are falling for it time and time again, it just becomes unrealistic. I did like the Riddler, but a lot of the times I felt his weirdness was sort of shoved down our throats a little bit too much. Carmine Falcone is played by John Doman, and Sal Moroni is played by David Zayas. I like seeing these two characters jostle for control of the city, and I think they played their roles both very well. However, I felt that Sal Moroni's death was really sloppy. There was about 10 minutes of the season left, and you could tell they needed to kill off Sal Moroni, so they just wrote in this awful confrontation between him and the character of Fish Mooney. She tells him not to call her babe, so then he proceeds by calling her babe about 10 more times. Oh, I'm sorry, babe. I won't do that again, babe. Oh, I just called you babe again, babe. Oh, I just called you babe again. What am I like, babe? Oh no, I said babe again, babe. Oh no, I keep saying babe, babe. I just did it again, babe. Literally, I'm not over exaggerating, that's how ridiculous it actually was. So yeah, she shoots him and boom, he's done. I felt it was really underwhelming to kill off a character as good as this in this way. Jerome, which is actually the Joker, is played by Cameron Monaghan. Great name. The kid had really big boots to fill, but I think he did a great job with it. I mean, he's only in one episode, but there's already trailers showing him more in season 2. You can tell he took inspiration from the Mark Hamill version of the character, and that's just something we haven't seen on screen before. And that laugh, you know. The last character I'm going to talk about here is Fish Mooney, who is played by Jada Pinkett Smith, and that's a big deal. If we were still in the 1990s. Now she of course dies at the end of the season, and I've heard people say things like, oh no, I can't believe she died. I hope and think she's going to come back in season 2 though. Not me, I kind of hope she stays dead. Now if you aren't aware of the cavalcade of female Batman villains, I'll tell you that there wasn't really anyone for her to play that wouldn't have either been a child, cast already, or just wouldn't have had a big enough part for an actress of her calibre to play in this season. And because she is probably the biggest actress on this show, they obviously needed her to be a show regular, so they just created a character called Fish Mooney for her. Nowadays people know that superhero films are a big deal, and these characters are really quite good and you can delve into them. So you can't just phone in a performance anymore to try and get a paycheck. Hopefully Ben Affleck is aware of this a second time around. But you could see that Jada Pinkett Smith saw that this was a comic book property and just decided to heavily overact. Now, I'm not hating on Jada Pinkett Smith because she can act, and I've seen that in the past before. She just doesn't give her best performance in this role. That's my personal opinion anyway. Also, less than halfway through the season, you could tell the writers just ran out of ideas for what to do with the character. If you aren't aware of how American television works, then let me fill you in. So, American TV series are about 23 episodes long, so they can't write every episode before they start shooting. So they write whilst they are shooting. So while they're shooting episode 1, a group of writers are probably working on like episode 6. So the writers have a general outline of where they want the season to go, but they will just make things up as they go along. So the writers knew that at the start of the season, Fish Mooney had to be here, and that by the end she had to be here. In between, they could just pretty much make it up as they wanted. But the storylines that they came up with weren't great. Like that whole storyline with the doll maker was just ridiculous and boring to me. It was also a waste of a good villain with Dollmaker. I thought they could have done a lot more with the character and the payoff could have been a lot more worth it. But they couldn't have cut Jada Pinkett Smith out of episodes because she is a big actress. So the production company would have forced the writers to actually make storylines for her. So for that reason, I'm happy she's not returning for season 2 as a show regular, because I think the show can now focus on characters that it actually wants to and show storylines that it wants to. But this wasn't the only situation where it felt the writers were just making it up as they went along. There was a lot of storylines which either had underwhelming payoffs or just felt completely unnecessary. The Dollmaker storyline, the Sal Moroni death, those two as I've touched on, but there was the Falcone girlfriend storyline and the Riddler's first murder and descent into madness. These amongst others felt rushed, they felt sloppy. You could tell that the writers came up with the idea for the storyline and they thought it was cool, so they started writing it, but they thought, oh yeah, we'll come up with the ending later on. This show just didn't know what it wanted to be. Some episodes felt dark and serious, whereas others felt comical and far-fetched. As a viewer, I felt confused by this. It wasn't just the story that was affected by this, but I felt the acting was reflected by this as well. So Ben McKenzie, Erin Richards and John Doman took their roles more seriously, and Cameron Bicondova, David Zayas and Robin Lloyd-Taylor were more animated in their approach. It looks like they had a lot more fun with their roles. I'm not saying that one way is right and one way is wrong, but they're just different, and that's noticeable. So when you have a character who's having more fun with the role, interacting with someone who's being more serious, you can tell, and it's sort of conflicting in its message. I didn't feel as glued to this show as I have done to other TV shows. I mean, I think one time I let about 4 episodes back up before I got round to watching them, unlike The Arrow and Flash, which I watched as soon as they became available. And eventually it kind of got to the point where I just stuck with the show because I'd watched it for so long that I would have felt bad just leaving it. So because I put in so much effort and time in watching the previous episodes, I thought I may as well soldier on through to the end of the season. But then something weird happened. I think it was around about episode 19. I actually started to quite enjoy it. I found myself paying a little bit more attention as to what was going on, and I found myself a little bit more hooked to it all. I think it was the whole story with the ogre. I thought it was acted out very well. It was told very well. However, in the comics, Barbara Keane eventually gets married to James Gordon, but I think for the series of Gotham, that's off. There is only so far you can push a character into craziness before having to reel them back into sanity. But I think the murder of both your parents is taking things a little too far. There's no redemption or comeback from that. I like the ending of the series. I like the fact that Bruce Wayne and Alfred found the sort of Batcave underneath the house. I'd like to see where that storyline goes. From the trailer which I've seen of season 2, it looks like we get more of the Joker and more of the villains in general, so that should be fun. But this show still has a lot of work to do. It needs to find out where it wants to go. It needs to find out what it wants to be. I can't be overly kind to Gotham because it knows it's trying to compete with the big boys like Arrow, Flash and Daredevil, and it's just nowhere near as good. But I did have a lot of fun with the show. I thought a lot of moments were good, others not so good, and it's still got a long way to go. But overall, I would give Gotham Season 1 a 6 out of 10. So yeah, Gotham airs next week in America on the 21st of September. The thing will probably pop up online the 22nd. I'm not sure when it actually will start to be shown on Channel 5 in the UK. It'll probably be later on this year, I'd imagine. But I am planning on doing weekly shows reviewing every episode. So just giving my insight on what I thought of the episode, where I think they're going with it, some of the things I enjoyed, some of the things I didn't enjoy. They're going to be a little bit more different, a little bit more casual than this type of approach that I'm doing now. But anyway, yeah, if you have liked what I've brought for you today, feel free to like, comment and subscribe. Also follow me on Twitter at Cam's Camera Talk. There's a link in the description below, and I will see you later. Kind of like bragging about the fact you have gonorrhea when trying to chat up a girl. It's just not a good thing. I mean, don't get me wrong.